In the background, I couldn't be doing this without my son Avi, who's my cameraman tonight. So I thank those of you who know, wave hi to Avi. I thank him very much. So I'll try to turn my back to you as little as possible, but my notes are behind me. So I love soup in the winter. I love a meal in a bowl, and all of these recipes can be used as a meal in a bowl. They are vegetarian. If you can find gluten-free couscous, they are all also vegan. They are incredibly easy. They're also very forgiving. So if you have a little more of this or a little less of that, it is not a problem. And you'll notice that there are a lot of ingredients I will not measure exactly. If I was baking, I would be a more precise measurer because baking is chemistry and science. But when you're throwing vegetables into a pot, you don't have to be as exact. So I am going to start with the hardest thing about any of these recipes, and that's prepping the butternut squash. You can buy it pre-peeled and pre-cubed if you would like, but I have found this miraculous peeler that makes it really, really easy. Bring it closer, okay. So I'm going to start to peel this. I actually went to the home show this past March before everything shut down. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to the home show at the convention center, but every year there are these people hawking brooms and sweepers and hose attachments and sham wows and all this. And there seems to be one year or each year, the one appliance that everybody is walking out with. And this past year, it was this. And what sold me on it was he actually demoed it on a butternut squash. And let me try it. And it was so incredibly easy. I don't know if you can see this. I'm really not fighting with it at all. And it just makes it really, really easy. Now, yes, buying it already cubed is also very easy.
That is my go-to.
And it's not a problem. And you'll see, so there are other vegetables like the carrots that we're going to use. I almost never buy whole carrots. I almost always buy the baby carrots because that is instant. Open the bag and snack on them. Open the bag, chop them and throw them in the pot. I don't know why I feel this way about butternut squash that I'm peeling it, but such is life. We all have our own lines. So I don't know if anybody is actually cooking along with me. This will be the thing that takes the most time. And you can tell it's really not that long to get it peeled. This is almost a 3.5 pound squash, and it's going to be enough for the two recipes, the butternut squash soup and the lentil and butternut squash, which is more of a stew than a soup, but it's still a meal in a bowl and absolutely delicious. And really, really easy because you just simply throw everything into the crock pot. Okay. So I have this wonderful instant garbage can right under where I work. Open it up, dump stuff. Okay. I also encourage everybody, if you do cook a lot, to get yourself good knives. Will save you a lot of time, and it's actually safer to use a really sharp, good knife. So I'm just going to trim the ends. And We need about 2 pounds for the butternut squash soup. And I think it says 20 ounces for the other one. So I'm going to give it a guess. Okay. I also cook using a scale. I've found it to be wonderfully helpful. So I'm looking for about 2 pounds. And that's just a little bit shy of 2 pounds, which means it's fine. Again, the recipe is very forgiving. We need 20 ounces for the other recipe. And that's just about perfect. Okay, so we'll put this aside.
Good eye.
All right. The other thing I like to do when I'm making several recipes at once is prep everything first. So I will probably be bouncing back and forth between the recipes, just so we'll get everything ready and then we'll be able to throw it together. So now that the butternut squash is peeled, the butternut squash soup calls for 1 large apple. Well, I didn't have 1 large apple, so we'll use about 1.5 medium. Apple core is optional, but I find it works really, really well. Takes a little effort. There's the core. Pull it out and it pops into the sink where the disposal is. Makes it really easy. This is why I work out.
But you could use one of those apple slicers too, right?
Absolutely. You aren't supposed to peel it, so if you're going to use a slicer, I'd peel it first and then use that. Absolutely. Now to peel the apples, I'm going to use I'm going to use a different peeler just because I find it goes faster, but a lot of people like the horizontal peeler for everything. I used to watch my mom's dad, my maternal grandfather, do this with a paring knife. And the goal was, of course, to get the peel off all in one piece. So he'd probably think that the peeler was cheating, but that's okay.
I thought you were going to say the goal was to get it peeled without slicing the tip of your finger off with a paring knife.
Exactly. That would be my goal.
Too.
Because he used the paring knife, and then my maternal grandmother, and I call all of my grandparents Bubby and Zeta. She tried so hard to teach me how to make knedlach, matzo balls. And I don't know what it was about my brain. I was very young. She died when I was 8. But she would say every Shabbos, she'd say, okay, how many eggs go in? Could never remember. Could absolutely never remember. And I still don't make chicken soup.
So I do, and I will tell you, I do cheat and use the matzo ball mix because
Okay.
because honestly, it's just so easy and it's the same ingredients, but easy.
It is, but it's just pre-measured for you, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, the matzo ball mix has baking soda and cream of tartar in it.
The mix does?
Does it?
It
That's what I
has some
noticed on
kind
the
of
ingredients.
no, because it doesn't say cream of tartar. It says something or other phosphate.
I'll have to check my box, but I don't think so.
It has something that works that way.
Could be a different brand.
No, I mean, it's kosher for Passover.
Oh, yeah. Of all the things that I do make for Passover, matzo ball soup is not one of them.
Oh, I like to make it. I guess, I guess,
I do too.
Uh,
I actually make really good chicken soup. I must admit.
Yeah, I have to ask, sinkers or floaters?
Oh, floaters.
Okay. Carolyn?
they're floaters,
Okay.
because I use kosher for Passover, baking powder.
Joanna, I know you want to weigh in on this.
Floaters.
Okay.
Mara makes sinkers.
Oh,
So I actually separate my egg whites and I beat my egg whites and fold them in. So I make very light and fluffy floaters.
there
wow.
you go.
And you
There's
know
a
what
good
else?
secret.
Judy, you can also use club soda to help make them fluffy.
Oh,
Really?
I don't, because
Wow,
I
this is
find
worth
it
my
just,
WoTS membership right here.
right. Because just boiling them for like 20 minutes makes them, the longer you
They're
cook
long
them,
enough.
the fluffier they
Joanna,
get.
But
we're
you-
gonna
but
have
you-
to we're gonna
use
have
the
to try to find for you one of the older Watts cookbooks. Actually, there's really good recipes in there.
Oh, that would be lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple left.
I think
Yeah,
we do.
Oh, that would be nice. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll look. I don't know when I'm going to be in the building next, but I'll look.
Oh, I
Yeah,
was
thank you.
just there today. Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so as we have been learning about matzo balls, I have gotten the onions ready. Just basically, so we're gonna start with the butternut squash soup. And it's so incredibly easy. You simply throw everything into the crock pot. And I am referring to my recipe. So it's the 2 pounds of butternut squash, which I'm going to try to cut.
yeah.
I was talking to Judy beforehand, and I was saying, kitchen countertops are a standard height, and I am short.
Mhm.
And so I often have to get up on my toes to get leverage when I'm cutting something like this. So this is because it's in a crock pot and it cooks for so long, it's very, very forgiving. You just cut the butternut squash into chunks. I throw it in as I go.
Like Barbie, you make it look easy.
Well, like I said, also a really good knife really helps.
Yeah.
It makes the work so much easier, and it's just safer, because if you're not struggling with a dull knife, it will go, the sharp knife will go through the food and not your finger.
And if it goes through your finger, it's a much cleaner, safer cut, right?
But if it's a really sharp knife, that is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So my mother, who actually was a good cook, who didn't really like to cook a lot, but when she did, she was a really good cook. We had to keep Band-Aids and first aid cream in the kitchen because I don't ever remember her cooking without slicing her finger.
Mm.
Ever. Wow.
I mean, and we'd hear it. She'd let out this little scream here, Sander, and we knew to go running.
Oh, what's the extra taste there?
But
I've looked down every once in a while and realized I've lost a fingernail, like not tonight, but
oh, I've done that too.
and I go, I wonder where that went. I've never had anybody come up with it, which is nice.
That's good. I hear it adds flavor, Barbara. But I have done that as well.
back in the day when I still got manicures, pre-COVID, at least it was easier to identify, you know, whatever the color was for that first couple of weeks. All right, almost done with that. All right, there's the butternut squash. Next comes the apple. I'm going to use 1.5 of the ones that I had. And that means I get a snack when I'm done.
Right.
The apple.
But you have to peel it, right? You have to peel it.
To peel it, yes. Is there anybody out there who actually owns a Pampered Chef apple peeler? I've seen those and I just, by the time I would get it set up on my counter,
Exactly.
I could have it peeled.
Depends how many you're peeling.
Oh,
I have an
that's
apple
Well,
peeler,
I
but I wouldn't take it out
okay.
for one apple.
Half a cup of it.
Do you use one, Carolyn?
Yeah, if I'm doing 10 apples or something.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, here comes the onion. Now the recipe calls for 1/2 cup of chopped onion, but I like onion.
Yeah.
So I'm really not measuring this. So it look like 1/2 cup. Lovely. It'll still taste good. Okay, then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. This recipe calls for black pepper. I don't cook with pepper. My mouth can't really take it, although Avi, who has a phenomenal palate, is teaching me how it can brighten flavors. I'm learning, but I am not going to throw black pepper in here. So I'm the one who eats most of this.
It's funny. I use very little salt when I cook. I might add like a little bit in at the end or something. I use very little salt, but I will use pepper.
Have you ever tried white pepper? It's a little bit milder.
Yeah.
You might like it better.
I'm working on that. I'm working on that. But if
I'm not that
the one
crazy
thing
about pepper either.
what I will not do, so the other, like Avi and Jamie use the black pepper grinder with peppercorns.
Right.
Never.
I have 8
I
different
don't like
peppers
it.
in my spice cabinet that I
Wow.
use.
Really?
I have a curry one. I have a lemon pepper. I have a French pepper. I have a California blend. And they all have a different taste to them. I know that sounds crazy, but
They do. No, they do.
Well, there's probably are there other spices in with them?
Just the lemon one and the curry one.
The other ones are just different peppers.
Different peppercorns.
Mm.
Okay, so this calls for 1.25 cups of broth. You can buy ready-made broth in a can. You can buy it in one of the shelf-stable boxes. I always keep broth cubes around and broth powder for those wonderful times where the boxed stuff is way too expensive. This is also very easy. It takes up very little space on your shelf. And I made the broth before tonight. So it would be ready.
So
That's it.
Is it vegetable broth, Barbara? I didn't read the recipe.
This
I'm
is-
sorry.
So you can use whatever you would like. The recipe calls for chicken broth, but I keep a kosher home. So if I use chicken broth, then I couldn't use, like it says in the notes that I put on the recipe, to make this a meal in a bowl, I will add Greek yogurt for the protein or veggie sausage patties, which sometimes have milk in them. So I keep it parve. I keep it meat free and dairy free when I make it. So the cubes, the chicken broth cubes I have no actual meat in them. And I'm going to set this aside. This cooks in the crock pot for 4 hours. 5, I sometimes let it go for 5, but 4 is usually okay. And then to puree it, let it cool a little bit. And then if you have an osterizer and you like that, about half the batch in the osterizer at once, blend it till it's smooth. I have a stick blender.
Yeah.
So just right in the crock pot, again, I let it cool a little bit, but then I'll just take the stick blender and puree it right in there.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and it's absolutely delicious. Okay.
I never bought a stick blender, but it sounds like a useful thing to have.
Oh,
It
it's so
is.
nice.
Yeah.
It is.
Keep cleaning out the other one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Much
It's
easier
really
to-
easy to clean.
Yep.
And to store, goes right in the drawer.
Yes.
Thanks,
Yes.
Allison.
Face.
Allison had put a nice note in the chat about a type of chicken broth.
Okay. So I'm pulling up. This one requires a larger slow cooker. Which
Is
I-
that really it for that other soup? That's it?
That is it.
Wow.
Wow, okay.
Butternut squash, apple, onion, salt, and broth.
Wow.
What am I lifting up?
Okay.
Show it again. My cameraman is telling me, oh, do you want to see inside?
Wow.
Ooh, yum.
But that is it. And it's absolutely delicious. And sometimes if I don't have another vegetable around and I'm eating dinner, I'll just take, a half a cup of this and that's my vegetable.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. If you know anything about Weight Watchers or you are on Weight Watchers, I'm on Weight Watchers Blue eternally. And the soup is 0 points. It's vegetables and an apple. And on that part of plan, it's 0 points. Here's the next one, the lentil and butternut squash stew. Also 0 points, and it is definitely a meal in a bowl. I'm gonna quick turn and look at the recipe so I make sure I'm doing it right. Oh, that's what I didn't do. Excuse me while I pull the spinach and the carrots out of the refrigerator.
There's a nice thing. I'll take this minute to say something relevant to what we're doing. The crock pot is a Jewish invention. I don't know if anybody realized that, but it's invented
idea.
as a way to get through Shabbat when you're not allowed to kindle fire.
Oh, that makes
Wow.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cholent. I grew up with anyone here of cholent? That was
Mhm.
That's the
that's what's
connection.
simmered right on the stove all of Shabbat. You put it on a low flame and it just sat there.
Yep.
And
There
it was
you go. Oh, I bet. Yep.
okay. Lentils. So I said I cook using a scale, and I just went to Giant Eagle green lentils. They come in different colors, and
So does it matter what color? I just bought
Absolutely
brown.
not.
Okay.
So I also didn't have lentils the first couple of times I made this, but I had split peas and I
Oh.
used them. Works just fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it calls for, I believe it says 3/4 cup, which according to the package is 105 grams. I have reduced the number of times I used measuring cups
I see that.
by using, now when I bake, I absolutely use a scale. And I try to put everything in grams, which are much, much easier to calculate than ounces.
Oh.
So they tell you to rinse the lentils And I don't know enough about lentils to know why. I guess there's
So
anybody
they're
else.
filthy.
I
They're
know.
filthy.
Is that why?
They're filthy.
Yeah, they're really
Right.
dirty.
So is
Yeah.
that the same reason for like, I make quinoa a lot. I
Yes.
never rinse the quinoa. I
Oh,
hate
'cause
to admit.
and now you're eating a lot of dirt. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, my mother, I never used to do it either. And my mother was able to convince me it's very dirty.
well, maybe that builds my immunity.
Maybe.
If you rinse it one time and look at what the water that you rinsed,
The
you
next time.
never not rinse them again.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's just quinoa is such a pain in the neck to rinse.
Right.
You
It
just
is.
need a little device,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Little
Yeah.
strainer. That was easy. So these are going to go down at the bottom.
And they also have, oh, I'm sorry. They also have little rocks in them, the lentils.
So that's the part I knew, but I don't, if I've got a strainer with holes that are small enough that the lentils go through, will the rocks go through? I don't know.
I know. They say you're supposed to look through. I've never found a rock, but
Yeah, I never have.
either I've eaten it.
That's
Again.
okay, it just passes through, doesn't matter.
There you
When you make it with split peas, do you cook it until the split peas fall? Oh wait, you're gonna use the blender anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No, this one doesn't get blended.
Ah,
This
okay.
one doesn't puree. And yes, I did find that the split peas take the maximum cook time. It's on low, but it's 10 hours on low
go.
to get them to cook. Excuse me. So you can plug it in at night and wake up in the morning and your lunch or dinner will be done.
Sometimes I've done split peas for 24 hours.
Wow.
In a slow cooker?
Yeah, otherwise I end up having to take out the immersion blender.
Oh. Okay, so the other end of the butternut squash looks like this, for those who have never made it on their own. So you can just take a soup spoon. As a wedding gift, many decades ago, we received grapefruit spoons. And that has a serrated tip. And that's what I use to scrape the seeds out.
Yes, I love my grapefruit spoons.
Now, do you use
All I
them?
use my grapefruit spoons for.
I use it just to do exactly what you do, Barbara, and on grapefruit.
Well, sometimes I
Yeah,
use it to
grapefruit.
help get the lemon juice out of the lemon.
Ah,
I
okay.
have one of those citrus squeezers. I love them because I use lemon constantly.
I have a question, Barbara. So I actually have never bought a whole butternut squash like you have. I buy the frozen, already chunked butternut squash. Is
Sure.
it the same, like, is the stuff in the freezer just a frozen version of what you have, or does it cook differently?
It's probably the same. It's probably
Okay.
just flash frozen.
Okay.
I think that if you were trying to roast it and serve it, not in a soup, but just roast it and serve it, you might find the texture slightly different, but I don't think it would be a difference in soup.
Okay, good.
I
Thanks.
think the only problem with it in this dish is that the texture might be really, really soft after it's been flash frozen and then in the crock pot for so long. I mean, the crock pot makes the butternut squash very tender, but it just might be really soft, which is not a problem.
For Judy,
Well-
for some reason, I think that Trader Joe's also has the cut up butternut squash just with the fresh produce as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cubed and ready to go.
Yeah, it is more expensive, but if you aren't cooking for 20 people, I don't think it's, you know what I mean, that much. of
I
a
don't think I
Right.
would know how to pick a butternut squash, to be honest with you.
I don't know of any particular way to
Yeah, I
tell,
don't, right.
whether they're good.
As
Yeah.
long as the flesh, doesn't have any big holes in it or
Yeah, well, if it looks
lard.
mushy or it looks like it's going bad, it probably is.
Yeah. I mean, I make a lot of spaghetti squash. I still don't really know how to pick a spaghetti squash.
Do you find differences in them when once you open them up?
The spaghetti squash or the butternut squash?
I'm with
one.
squash, I haven't ever like found a difference.
No,
You know,
me
with
neither.
fruit,
No.
sometimes it's sweet and sometimes it's not, but with vegetables, I don't find so much of a difference.
Right.
Right.
Right. Even when I've had a butternut squash sit on my counter for a very long time, as I look at it and say, I really have to cook that. And then another week goes by,
Yeah.
you'll start to see like the skin, pieces of the skin, it'll start to weep.
Mhm.
But then when I peel it, it's fine on the inside.
Mm.
For this recipe, I make the pieces of squash slightly smaller, since I am not going to puree it.
So Barbara, could you use acorn squash as well? Just curious.
I honestly don't know, but I would, why not? Why
Right.
not?
But did you peel the butternut squash?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
acorn
Yeah,
squash,
she peeled it before you came on, Carolyn.
Yes,
um,
peeled it. You missed my handy dandy peeler. You have the apple peeler and I have the handy dandy. It's not an appliance, it's just an apple peeler.
I have various apple peelers, but I try to avoid having to peel squash. I buy the frozen or the peeled and cut up.
Yep. Yes, we all have our, the shortcuts that make us happy.
Right.
The other thing is I don't like cutting up squash when it's raw, just like sweet potatoes. I mean, they're really hard. So I usually microwave them a bit and let them get easy to cut up, but that might
Oh,
foul up the timing on your crock pot.
Oh, I don't, as long as this has, for the number of hours this cooks, I don't think that would be a problem. Okay, again, a very, very forgiving recipe. So here's my shortcut. I always buy baby carrots, already in the bag, ready to go. This calls for 5 medium carrots. I approximated it to a pound. So again, I'll just do a quick measurement. Other times I simply grab them by the handful. Whatever works. 454 grams per pound. Learned that in the operating room. Because we weigh body parts. Actually, that was taught to me actually by a plastic surgeon as we were doing breast reduction surgery. And he had to know that he was taking an even amount off each side. And we do it in grams.
that's interesting.
So,
Okay.
all right, so this will take a little bit of time too, but we're gonna cut the carrots up. And it's really up to you as to how big or small you like the pieces. I like these a little smaller. I have to tell you that the long time and low temperature that these cook in the crock pot makes them so sweet.
Yeah.
The natural sugars come out. It's absolutely delicious. I sound a little bit like, if any of you have seen Jamie Oliver's show, Veg Out.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of his show, but he's in love with vegetables, and for good reason. But they become so sweet.
I have a friend who when she makes spaghetti sauce, includes a carrot for that reason, for that natural sweetness instead of adding, some people add sugar,
Mhm.
which I can't imagine doing, but the carrot brings that sweetness.
Like, so Lynn, when you make chicken soup, do you use a parsnip? That is what I've told, just to use a parsnip for sweetness for the soup.
I do when I can find one. I mean, when I make my soup, I use almost a whole package of celery minus maybe a couple of stalks, about 7 carrots, 2 big onions, fresh parsley. If I have a parsnip or find a parsnip, I use that as well. Garlic, a little bit of salt, pepper.
Interesting.
Dill, I know some people use
I don't
dill.
put dill in mine.
No?
Oh,
I've sometimes, if I want a little bit of, I never thought of parsnip, but sometimes I'll cut up an apple and throw it in.
Oh, for the sweetness.
Yeah,
I've not heard that.
interesting.
All right. The carrots are slowing us down. But again, every ingredient is simply cut it and throw it in the pot. I do recommend putting the split peas or lentils down in the bottom though, to make
Oh,
sure the
okay.
liquid gets to them. Because that's, everything else will kind of steam cook also, but not the lentils. Boy, I'm going to have a lot of soup.
Yes, you are.
But to clean out Avi's also in charge of cleaning out the freezer, making sure we have room for it.
So who's at home? Just Avi or Avi and David?
Avi is here. David currently is in Florida with his girlfriend. And we've told him, wait for the numbers to go down before you get on a plane.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I was lucky. I did my trip out west in October when the numbers were low.
Yes, you were lucky. I got both my vaccines. I should be at 95% immunization on Monday.
Did you have the Pfizer one, Barbara?
Got the Pfizer, 21 days later, got the second one. And they say it takes about a week to get up to 95% immunity. So this coming Monday. Okay, so the recipe says the split peas or the lentils in the bottom, pile in the squash, the carrots, okay, the onion. Again, it calls for 1 medium onion. I like onion.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big onion. And remember, again, with this recipe, you're not going to puree it. So I'm cutting it up a little bit smaller. Also, I find the onions add a sweetness to this. These are not sweet onions, but the way they slow cook. Toss that in. You can see my careful measurements.
You're not going to have to cook dinner for a week, Barbara.
Jamie doesn't like butternut squash.
Tell him it's something else.
Are there any vegetables that he eats?
Yes, I keep a steady supply of, it's like an Israeli salad, but we simplify it. I just keep chopped cucumbers and tomatoes.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, there's always a bowl in the refrigerator.
Okay.
Yeah.
He will eat broccoli. What else, Avi? That's about it. Oh, asparagus.
Cauliflower?
Yeah, asparagus. He will eat
yeah.
cauliflower. Like for Shabbat tomorrow night is again, I don't do anything difficult. It's mini meatloaves in a 9x13 pan with a bag of Florentine vegetables. So
Yeah.
that's the cauliflower and carrots.
Mhm.
You thaw those, you throw them in the bottom of the pan. It's something like this with some cut up potatoes, and you put the meatloaves in and you cook it. And it's delicious, and it's a whole meal right there.
Oh, I like that
Wow.
idea. I'll have
That'll
to
be
remember that.
next.
That
That'll be
sounds
next.
really good, though.
I'll have to remember
It
that.
is. Okay, so vinegar, red wine vinegar, 3 tablespoons. Love, if you don't have shot glasses to measure little amounts of liquid, I highly recommend it.
Oh,
There's
And they
another
have
idea for a program.
They have the markings on them.
Shabbat cooking with the Rebbitzin.
That's
Every
good.
Thursday, we can come and get together with Barbara and find out what she's cooking.
There you go.
It could be 15 minutes.
So I knew I was going to use up this old, I don't know if you saw this old bottle that I had.
yeah.
So I now have a lifetime supply of red wine vinegar because this was the smallest bottle they had.
For sure.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever seen a bottle that big.
I kept staring at it, and the one that was smaller, so it was like slightly smaller, twice as much. And I went, no.
No.
Okay, so right now I'm just following the recipe. The vinegar, the salt, the pepper, and the bay leaf. I kind of rinse as I go. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do add bay leaf to my chicken soup. I forgot that.
Oh, that is also different. Okay, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. If your set doesn't have a 3/4 teaspoon, you should get one.
Hmm.
Just makes life easy.
Yep.
Okay, again, skipping the pepper, personal preference. Bay leaf. I do go to the food co-op, the East End Food Co-op, and they have spices in bulk.
Yeah.
So again, this is probably a 10-year supply of bay leaves that I just picked up.
And it's funny, I keep old spice jars for that reason. If I want to go buy.
Yes,
stuff in bulk.
exactly. Okay, then again, I pre-made broth, but you can have it. You can pour it out of a box.
So 2 cups, it looks like, right? Yep.
2 cups, yes. Okay, that's it.
Wow, that's easy too.
That's it. And this makes about a total of 8 cups quantity when it's done cooking. So again, I speak Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers Blue, 0 points for a 2-cup bowl of soup, which really is, you've got the lentils there for protein, all the vegetables you could want, just with a piece of fruit, maybe a piece of bread if you want. It's very filling, very, very low points. So my cameraman wants me to
So
show you
that-
what it looks
that
like
one is-
before. And then there should be a picture of it cooked in the crock pot that's attached to the recipes.
And that's 10 hours.
That is, so you can do it says 5 hours on high.
Mm.
I found that the split peas didn't cook enough. So I would do the longer time, lower temperature. Yep. All right.
And you
How
don't
would-
puree
Oh my
that when
God.
you're done. You just cook it and
Correct.
it's done.
Correct.
Hey,
And
Barbara,
yes.
what kind of emulsion blender do you have?
Oh, Avi's going to get it so we can show it to you.
Thank you, Avi.
And I just looked at the time. I hope everybody's okay to stick around a while. Again, the polka dot soup kind of throws itself together. So this one's a little more to do because you actually have to stir something. Okay, so Yeah, this is the, I'm gonna take it apart just so you can see it. This is a Braun.
Okay, yeah, I
Cuisinart
like
has
Braun.
one,
Yep.
okay? Very easy. But if you don't have one and you're going to buy one, see if you can put hands-on in the store. Because I have found some of the, even some of the higher priced ones, the grip is really awkward. I think the Cuisinart has a safety button you have to hold down with your thumb while you're squeezing the activation button. It's horrible. So
Okay,
make sure you have hands on before you purchase it.
okay.
But this is it. It just goes up and down in the crock pot when things are cooked. And I know people make smoothies with these instead of using an osterizer. Just make sure that the sides of the cup are tall enough or you will be wearing your smoothie and your soup.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that would be me. Thank you. I am a messy cook.
It's the initiation.
Okay. Last one, polka dot soup. I'm gonna depend on Avi to get some shots here. So it calls for 2 cups of water. My sink happens to be here. Where am I? Is that about right? That's about right. Into the pot. And the reason I am using a pot that is this big is because I like to use fresh spinach
Yeah.
and it takes up a lot of room. Okay. So 2 cups of water, 1 cup of Israeli couscous, that's the larger grain. I have no devotion to Osam, but this is the brand I bought today. And according to my calculations, that's 165 grams. Oh, no, that's way too much. Okay. There we go. Okay. So the water's supposed to be coming to a boil. And in the meantime, we have measured the couscous. Stir in the couscous. Carrot, oh, more carrots. 2 medium carrots, which you'll see my scientific measurements. Where's my aunt? Sorry, I got a lot of water in there. My aunt would say, is that what's left in the bag? That's good enough. I will use a few more. Yay, successfully opened the resealable bag in a way that it will still be resealable.
Good.
That's a talent in and of itself.
I know, sometimes it does not work. So we're gonna use, so this is supposed to be 2 medium carrots. And again, smaller pieces, this does not get pureed. This is either gonna be what's left in the bag or when I get tired of chopping.
That's been the most labor intensive one.
Why is it? Because you can,
No, doing the carrots is the most labor intensive, really, this whole
yes.
thing.
And if I suppose, if I really, really wanted to, I could buy diced carrots. They have those too.
Oh.
Or matchstick carrots, you could do that.
Mhm.
You can buy them pre-cut. How's my pot doing? I'm getting there.
You can buy them frozen too.
Yep. Right. All right, we might be a little light on carrots this load because I'm done chopping. Again, very forgiving recipe. Not anything I'm worried about. All right, so it's going to be bring the water to a boil, stir in the couscous, the carrots. Okay, turning down the heat. Avi, can you get the lid to that, please? Okay, so the next thing it called for, I'm looking at the right one, was 1 plum tomato. I didn't have a plum tomato, but I have these and they need to be eaten. So whatever looks like a plum tomato. If you don't have a serrated knife, you need a serrated knife for tomatoes. Chop that very coarsely and very easy. And I like tomatoes. So if it's a little more, that's okay with me.
Have you ever used a can of diced tomatoes?
Not for this recipe, but yes, absolutely. I didn't want to put, because I use prepared tomato soup, I didn't want already cooked tomatoes also.
Mhm.
And then, but you know, again, a very forgiving recipe. Can do it any way you would like. All right, plum tomato. Where am I? 1/4 cup of chopped onion. Again, my not exact.
So that's a good thing to remember, that if you're using like a large onion and you quarter it, that's about a 1/4 cup. That works.
Just about, yeah. Maybe a little generous, but I like vegetables.
Yeah, and I like onion.
Yep. Okay, onion, and garlic. Okay, so kicking this up to high, which it should hit in just a moment. Thank you for your patience. It's nice, I have the super burner for the very large pot. All right, so we're at step 1. So in the saucepan, bring it to a boil, stir in the couscous. Carrots, tomato, onion, and garlic. I have my garlic. I do buy pre-minced garlic. That is something I don't want to mess with. So garlic in a jar. And it says that 1/2 teaspoon is about 1 clove, but I like garlic.
Yep.
Teaspoon. Oh, I thought it was 1 teaspoon.
Okay, and return to a boil. So we're going to keep that cooking. You got it, return to boil. Okay, lower the heat and simmer uncovered. So we're either going to chat. Sorry, I didn't time this right. This is supposed to cook for about 10 or 15 minutes. Uncovered. And then I'll just get the other things ready, but it's very easy. The spinach and the spices. So I bought 10-ounce bag of fresh spinach.
Yep.
If I see any giant stems, I'll pull them off. But otherwise, because it's baby spinach, well, this isn't baby spinach, but I often buy the baby and it's pretty tender. So we'll just pick out a couple and then we'll get our spices ready. Oop, lower the heat. Set my timer. See if 12 will be enough. Okay, so I can open the can of black beans. That'll be part of it. Rinse and drain those. Again, this is another meal in a bowl. Here's your protein.
Definitely.
Yep. My handy dandy sink. All right, we're gonna let those sit. So the other thing that this recipe calls for is prepared soup, which is kind of a cheat. But, so I thought I was buying 2 of these. Found, whoop, I have no loyalties to Progresso, just, it was on sale this week. And it calls for 38 ounces. So there's this. And I mistakenly picked up tomato and roasted red pepper, but
That's okay.
no,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
And at least, pardon?
that would be delicious.
Yeah.
It's going to be. They also come, and soups also come in the, shelf-stable boxes. I think that's a quart, like 32 ounces, but again, it's a very forgiving recipe. We're boiling away nicely.
I do buy the Trader Joe low sodium, like they do a tomato, they do squash, and they do the, I think a tomato and roasted pepper soup.
I think
Yep.
they do a plain red pepper soup too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I tend to look for the low sodium stuff.
They're always good. I wish we had a Trader Joe's up in
I like the Trader Joe's.
I mean, I will tell you that, like on nights I really don't want to cook, I use the box soup and add black beans to it for a little protein.
Nice.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's real, I mean, I call it my cheater dinner,
Hey, it works.
for sure.
All right, I am just measuring the seasonings. Let's see, a teaspoon of dried basil. If I can open this up. It's a tool for everything. Yeah, once I bought tomato soup with basil, so do
Yeah.
not feel the need to supplement. Basil, and then half each of salt. Another good reason to buy the low sodium if you're adding salt.
Or you don't have to add the salt. Yeah.
Or you don't hurt. That's right.
I often don't add salt. I figure I can always add it at the end.
If I made chicken soup, I put a little salt in when cooking and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the original recipe calls for marjoram. I probably had it the first time I made it, then ran out of marjoram and decided it wasn't necessary. Again, a very, very forgiving recipe.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give this a stir. Can you show what it looks like?
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah, pretty.
Yum.
This is where this is where the director or the producer of the show tells people to stretch it. Because I've still got 7 minutes on my timer.
Pretty.
It does look nice. It smells good. I think I have everything ready. The spinach is ready. The soup is ready.
I mean, you can really use any spice if you like cumin or a little cardamom. You know, there's no reason why you can't use spices to change the flavor up a little bit.
Absolutely. Yep. Here, I talked about short. You want to follow me again? When Audie isn't here and I can't ask him to get tall, I keep my handy tongs around,
Yeah.
That's right.
right? Everybody have a reacher?
Wow.
Yeah, it's,
You mean you don't climb on the countertop?
well, it depends on what I'm taking down. I have ceramic teapots. For that, I will climb on the counter.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I work out. You have to keep your triceps
That's
in
right.
tune,
Yeah.
right? So you can jump up on the counter.
Oh, look at you. Yeah.
Should I do my jazzercise plug?
There.
Jazzercise at home, 6 days a week, almost 6 days a week. 5 days.
Wow.
Wow, Barbara.
I love my
That's
love my
good.
instructor. Yeah, she's fabulous.
That's awesome.
I'm just looking at the pot.
We looked at a condo that it was too small, but we couldn't buy it anyway because I couldn't reach the first shelf on the cabinet.
Oh.
I figured that was not for us.
I suggest,
Right.
but it didn't happen.
You know, I have one of those grippers. It was my dad's. And when we cleaned out his house, I said to my sister, I actually think this will come in handy because I always kept a step stool in my kitchen, but frankly, with my knees, if I don't have to climb up and down a three steps, you know, 3-rung step stool, I'm better off. This gripper is amazing, but you do have to, I wouldn't use it on anything breakable.
No.
Right. My mom had MS in later life, and yep, she had a gripper because she was in her chair, but she still cooked, but couldn't stand up to reach the things in the cabinet. So, my dad made it for her, made the gripper for her. He was a jack of all trades, and made it. That he also, when my brother and I were very little, handmade the wooden paddles they used on us when we misbehaved.
You knew you were getting punished then.
Wow, Barbara. Wow on 2 levels. Wow
Yeah.
that they used paddles and wow that he made them.
Yep, handmade them. Yes. There's a memory I haven't had
Yeah,
brought up. Heard those cells in a while. All right, we're down to 4 minutes. Any other questions? I'll tell you very briefly about my favorite soup. It's called, my family, I grew up calling it krupnik. And it's also split peas, barley, beans, but the base is extra lean short ribs.
Oh.
Absolutely spectacular. And I make it probably once a year when the weather starts to get cold, because it's definitely a cold weather recipe. It's so good. Of course, I have childhood memories, right? And it brings back all those childhood memories of eating it as a kid. But my family has come to really enjoy it.
Oh, it sounds delicious.
Stirring the pot.
I have a
Editorial comment, it wasn't that long of a journey. To enjoy this.
I have a cousin who would make lamb stew that was just
Oh.
delicious, but it was not an easy stew to make, I have to tell you.
I used to have a lamb and eggplant stew recipe that I
Ooh.
loved, and I cannot find it.
Oh, that sounds so good. I love lamb. I love
Yeah.
I
lamb.
love eggplant.
Yeah. Cannot find it.
And I
Have you ever looked on the internet?
I have,
Well,
and
you
the
haven't found
ones have not found that particular recipe.
Yeah.
It's
Huh.
and I can't imagine I would have tossed it. So I could be buried in an electronic file somewhere.
Yeah.
It's yummy. All right, I'm gonna go grab a spoon. 2 minutes on the timer.
Okay.
All right, so when the 2 minutes are up, I'm just going to test a couple pieces of the couscous to make sure it's tender. And then we just we throw in the spinach and the spices, let it cook down, and it's ready to eat. And it doesn't take the spinach long to wilt. But again, you'll see if you don't cook with fresh spinach very often, you'll see why I used a giant pot.
Yeah.
And then it shrinks down to this, right?
Yeah.
But it's really yummy.
I thought that I would be healthy and do like a kale omelet one day. So you have to use a big pot and well, I think spinach cooks better than kale. Kale is funky to cook, I think. But but I remember all of a sudden I thought, oh my God, I'm using so much kale, but it too cooks way down like spinach.
Oh, it doesn't?
Yeah.
I never got on the kale bandwagon.
Well, I'm off.
sounds like it was that good, huh?
I tried it. I mean, I tried to cook with kale because I knew it was a superfood and it was healthy. But I thought, you know what? I think spinach is just as good. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Somebody
think
made kale chips once and I ate kale chips and they were okay, but then I went, why go through the trouble? It was just so much, I don't know. So
I agree. Not Trader Joe's. Aldi's actually has a really good cauliflower chip.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Wow.
I love them.
okay. I'll have to look next time.
Kale is fun to grow in the garden. It's much easier than spinach.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, the bugs don't seem to like it as well.
Huh.
And it's
Good.
easy to grow in a container.
Hey, Barbara, do you know, are they doing at the Temple Garden, are you guys doing a compost pile?
I thought so. I thought they were. Judy, do you have any insight?
Sorry, I do not.
There's a wonderful documentary on Netflix called Keep It Going, and it talks about the way that we can reclaim our environment. And compost pile is like one of the best things to do. Thought that was interesting.
Yep. Okay, those were the black beans. Here are all the seasonings. The soup.
oh, I'll put
I want to get all the liquid into the pot
Yep.
before I add the spinach. Turn it back up. All right. Okay. See how much room there is in the pot?
Yep.
See how little room there is in the pot?
Barbara, do you, I'm looking at, pulling up the recipe. So how long do you simmer it?
I let the spinach wilt. And when it is wilted to your preference, it is done and ready to eat.
Wow.
So again, super easy.
That's a fast one.
It
And the
is.
lentils are all cooked?
So the lentils are in the crock pot. This is the couscous, and the couscous is tender after it was 12 minutes,
Okay.
and the couscous is cooked.
No, but I thought this recipe also called for lentils, no?
No,
Oh, no, I'm on the wrong recipe. I'm sorry. There it is. Boy, that's a fast one.
it is. It really is. I mean, like you said, the carrots were the most labor-intensive part. I'm going to put the lid on it just to try to get it to. Is that the right lid? Not the right lid.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's the difference between Israeli couscous and other couscous?
The Israeli couscous is a larger pearl. The other couscous is closer to the size of quinoa.
Like a grain. Yeah,
And
look,
the Israeli couscous is bigger.
And Giant Eagle carries it?
Pardon?
Giant Eagle carries it?
I got mine at Murray Avenue Kosher.
You know what? They do.
They do? Great.
I wanted the whole wheat couscous, but I had to go online because they don't carry that.
I think Market District has it by bulk.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
but I didn't want to go shopping.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm trying
impatient.
to follow you along, Barbara, but I'm behind.
I'm sorry? I
I'm
didn't.
following you along, but I'm behind.
Oh, I did have a lot already set out.
Well, I could have, I just didn't.
So you can see that it has wilted significantly.
Yeah.
Looks yummy.
It really is.
Okay, it's couscous, carrots, tomato, onion, garlic.
Again, I'm going to cover it. What else? So I hear the next one is going to be, what is Carol Rosenthal? She's going to make
She's
salmon?
making salmon. I know she has jalapenos, but she said it's not very spicy. And there's something else that's with it, I forget. I can look it up, actually, I can.
And actually, if you don't use the seeds of the jalapeno, it's not as heat. There's not as much heat.
Not as much heat.
Well, I learned that today because I made some a recipe for the East End Cooperative Ministries thing tomorrow night, and it had jalapenos in, and I was always afraid of them, and I was surprised that they were fairly mild.
Carolyn, it was tonight, you know.
Oh, you were right, but it's already been delivered.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering.
Good.
Right, I just did it this afternoon.
Right. Well, you've all been very patient. I appreciate it.
That looks good.
This was wonderful. Thank you, Barbara.
You are welcome. It'll take a little bit longer for this to cook down, and certainly we don't have to hang around for it, but you're getting an idea of what it will look like after the spinach wilts.
Really, all you need is a good crusty bread and maybe a little salad, and that's dinner.
Yeah.
And I will tell you something so Avi spent some time in Ireland when he was at CMU, and is a convert to Irish butter.
Oh,
So when you talk about a crusty piece of bread with some Irish butter on it, fabulous. And these are all veggie soups.
Kerrygold. You
Kerry-
won
Oh.
Kerrygold.
Kerrygold,
Oh,
okay.
You want us to show it?
Gold
Hold on.
good.
Okay. That's the brand of butter. We do not get money for this, but this is what he recommends. And it's in a tub and it's very spreadable.
I've had it. It's yummy. And I'm not a big butter eater. Like we didn't grow up like having bread and butter at our meals, or even on Friday night with challah. My mother never put out butter.
Oh, yeah. No.
So
But I agree, Avi. That is amazing butter.
Right.
it is. It's really good.
So
if we
what makes it, what makes it different than regular butter? Avi or Lynn?
I don't know. I just had a friend say, try the Irish butter.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
It has a higher butter fat content.
Okay.
So this is good that
Irish
all the
butter.
soups have 0 points
Right.
because we're all
Yeah.
making it up in the butter.
So, so the polka dot soup has points because of the couscous.
Oh, right.
So that actually it's like 7 points if you divide it. I think I divided it into 5 servings.
Okay.
But that's your whole meal, and a
Right.
piece of fruit. So
Right. And butter.
a little butter. You need
And a
fit
little butter.
that. You need to do a workout and then you get fit points for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So if we bring some homemade challah, what time are you serving tomorrow night?
We can't wait to be able to open our Shabbat
Right.
table again.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
agree.
Everybody feels that way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
agree. I moved, I changed I'm in a duplex, and I purposely moved so I could have I didn't have a big dining room in my other place. It's hardly a dining room. And I have a full dining room, and I actually could seat people safely because it's big enough. I can't wait to have people for dinner.
Yep. Agreed. So my cameraman has another obligation, and I want to thank him very, very much, and thank all of you.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of
Thank you.
fun.
Thank
If
you
you
for
have any
opening up your
questions-
kitchen.
Absolutely. If you have any questions, just email me. I'm happy to answer, and Temple has my email.